All right, my friends, we are back with another episode of the Blue Crocus Experience. I'm excited about this one. This is Kevin and I were talking, and as always happens, we started to get into some good stuff just before I started recording. I was like, "All right, Kevin, stop. I don't need to know anymore. Let's hit it. Let's hit it live." So, Kevin, welcome to the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So we've got Kevin Hess here. Cool background. We've got the big dog will come up in conversation. If you've been in junk removal any length of time, you know 1-800-GOT-JUNK is on lots of people's tongues in all the groups and on their minds throughout the days. And Kevin has got some insights into some of the stuff in that organization. And then he started his own business as well. So, Kevin, why don't you just give people a little background? And by people, I mean me. You know, let's dive into it. Let's hear the story that you were starting to tell me. And I was like, all right, let's shut that down and share it.
Well, I'm glad to be on here. Like I said, I started in junk removal. I've been in junk removal, for a while. I worked with 1-800-GOT-JUNK for a little over 10 years. In that time period, the first 5 years was pretty insignificant. Moderate success, moderate growth. Started off with a franchise that was doing $800,000 a year. Started off with it as an operations manager, and then about 5 years in, everything changed. It's one of those things where I got the phone call from my doctor and said, "Hey, Mr. Hess, you've been diagnosed with cancer." So, for me, I went through a lot of treatments. I went through some serious, operations. And, when I came back, everything was different for me. Like I said, we had moderate success. I had, aligned myself with a lot of other franchise owners, a lot of, operations managers, different managers throughout the system. And, one thing for me, I come from a customer service background. I'm not a salesman. So for me, I listen to them talk about having their sales culture, and I'm like, I got a customer service culture. Mine's different. I think mine's better. Well, after I came back from having my cancer and everything else, I decided that, something's got to change. I wanted to be more. So I started developing myself as a leader, because I've been a manager for many, many years, but I never really knew the difference between a manager and a leader. So I started developing myself as a leader, and, started getting more and more success as we went along. And, franchise of the year, top performers. I had, some of my guys as the top performers for the whole system. But, it was a moderate rise, and like I said, the people that I talked to with the sales culture, they had moderate success. I had moderate success with my culture. But then I started digging deeper, and the more I started to develop myself as a leader, I started looking into it, and I realized, what's the difference between my high performers and everybody else on my team? So having, one-on-ones with them, getting to know my people better, I realized these guys have a sales background. So I'm like, okay, so maybe there's something to it. When you have a sales culture, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of, performance, that goes along with it. They kind of develop, ongoing learning. They, build trust and communication, and they maintain a high accountability with that. My customers, but at the same time, as they're making good money, they're not getting those repeat customers. They're not getting those referrals, because it's kind of a one and done. Many people, when I started my own business, I looked at these, junk removal chats, and all I see is people with that sales culture. And, but I realized something. I started implementing a lot of that sales culture into what I do as well, and combining it with that customer service culture. Because, like I said, I had the repeat business, I had the referrals, but we weren't generating the high amount of revenue that we were doing. So after I combined those two, I realized that when you put the sales culture together with the customer service culture, what you get is a high performance culture. So not only do you get group of individuals that want to make more money, but they also want to make the customer happy. They want to make sure that the customers have an actual experience so that they use us again. They'll refer us to their friends, their family, their coworkers. So I started implementing that, and I saw a huge rise in our success. And I had a lot of guys that were, really performing at a high level. After reading a book by John Doerr, I started measuring what matters. Not only measuring the revenue performance, and the sales performance, but the customer service performance as well. Google reviews, net promoter score, how well we're actually taking care of our customers. So measuring that on top of the sales made people more engaged, and the more engaged they got and the higher performer, the more performance that they did and the higher they became, I started feeling like there's something left there. These guys are performing at such a high level, but there's no forward momentum. So I said, you know what? I developed myself as a leader. Why can't I develop them as a leader as well?
So Kevin, sorry to interrupt you there, but I'm hoping to fill in a couple pieces here for me. So what role were you in it? Were you a franchise owner?
No, I was a general manager.
Okay, general manager.
Yeah.
And then so you did that for 10-ish years, something like that with Got Junk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I started off as an operations manager only because the franchise I was in wasn't big enough to have a general manager.
Got it.
So if I knew that if I wanted to succeed, I had to help this company grow.
So then you switched to another one, or did you stay on the same one and then?
No, I stayed in the same one.
Okay.
And like I said, as throughout the years, we slowly crept up, and scaled the business, and we got to a point where we made, we finally hit that $3 million mark. But once I started changing the way I lead and the way that, developing everybody else into leaders, we saw that scale grow significantly.
Very cool.
After that slow creep to 3 million turned into almost 6 million the year after that. And the year after that, that turned into 9 million. So it was a significant increase because I combined that sales culture with that customer service culture. Because without that customer service culture, just having a sales culture, you're gonna have so much growth and it's always pushing on the performance, but you're not gonna, like I said before, you're not gonna have that repeat customers. You're not gonna have those referrals, and that's always gonna be. You can spend millions on advertising and marketing. You can spend thousands, millions, whatever it takes. But that real bread and butter is always going to be that repeat business and always going to be that those referrals.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're leaving a trail of bodies in your wake. Are you able to share what location you were at, or would you prefer to keep that?
I was at the one of the Atlanta locations.
Okay. And then now you're running your own business. That's a question that in my mind, and I'm sure in the listeners' minds, why the transition if things were going so well at Got Junk?
Well, I mean, to kind of put it in perspective, at the end of last year, there's probably about 175 1-800 Got Junk locations. We were ranked number one out of all those locations. We had the top performer for our truck teams. He was number one in the entire system, basically the world, because you're talking about, the United States, Canada, Australia, we top performer. We won franchise of the year. At the beginning of the year, we went under new ownership. As that ownership came in, they brought in different leaders with different perspectives. And, it was more about saving money than making money. So they really didn't see they didn't see the big picture, that the way I was leading. They just wanted to do it. So I decided, if I created a lot of really good leaders that went on to other locations to run their locations. I created a lot of operations managers. I even created 3 guys that went on to run their own junk removal companies, and I thought, I did not like the direction it was going. So I decided to go on my own, and that's why I chose, being a cancer survivor puts a lot of different things in perspective. And I really wanted, the closer to success that I got, the more I realized I'd rather be significant. So changing people's lives, helping them grow, helping them succeed was really important to me. They didn't see the significance in that.
Yeah.
So I decided that if I wanted to do that again, I want to go out on my own. I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to bring in guys so that I could change their lives. So, because that to me is the most important thing. And in order to, and then like I said, after starting my own business, because when I was with 1-800 Got Junk, I had a marketing team. I didn't have to worry about that. I didn't have to learn SEO. I didn't have to do all that. I'm learning all that now because I didn't know anything about that. That's why I joined all these, junk removal chat rooms, and I started reading what people were saying, learning how to do all those things, because that seems to be the number one topic, SEO, lead generation, website development. Yeah, those are all things that I need to learn because I suck at it, to be honest. But the one thing I did not see was people talking about that culture where they are actually, taking care of the customer. What I saw, to be quite blunt, was a limited mindset. I heard the same things over and over and over again. My
You're
customers
talking
too
about
cheap.
in the Facebook groups, right?
Yeah, in the
Yep.
Facebook groups. I saw a lot of, you know, limited mindset where people are, my customer's too cheap. That's not my customer. I don't get out of bed for less than whatever amount of money. I hear that one a lot. I know my worth. You know, I see people talking about how they have their customers text them pictures of the item so they can give an estimate without going on site and actually showing the value of their service. You know, the market's too saturated. Well, guess what? Contractors, there's 1,000 contractors in every area. They never talk about them. There's always going to be a need for contractors or plumbers or painters or junk removal. It doesn't matter how many, how much competition you have, there's plenty to go around. So, what I saw was people fostering a culture of excuses, and that's why I started, thinking about it, and I wanted to help others. I started jumping in the chats when people had questions about how to deal with customers and, things like that. And I realized that I have a lot of knowledge that I can actually share with people.
Yeah.
That's why I put together this course on how to help people, actually give that customer experience, because those customers is how our company thrives, and how actually building. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of junk removal companies that start or have been in business for a long time, they have that sales culture, and they have, maybe they have a background in sales or they're worried about sales, but having a one and done customer is never going to help you scale or grow your business.
No.
And
The lifetime, you're absolutely right in the groups, and it's an interesting phenomenon because I stand on the other side. Obviously, for those that don't know, I helped start a junk removal business here, worked in it pretty heavily for the first year, and so I got to do a lot of the marketing and the lead generation. But without the sales and without going out and actually selling the jobs, you could have leads coming out of your ears. But if you have the attitude of, hey, I'm not going to get out of bed for this, or you're not going out to quote, you're missing out on jobs. That is the absolute facts.
but you're missing out on money is what you're missing out of.
You are. Yeah.
If you're sending an estimate over a text, you're missing out, because guess what? If a customer calls you up and says, I have a sofa to be removed, that's not a lot of money. I don't really want to do that. I'm not going to waste my time driving 30 minutes to pick up a sofa. But guess what? That's the project they're working on. Doesn't mean they don't have more junk. And that's why building that rapport with the customer and building a relationship, where you're going relational versus transactional, you can actually find more junk because they have more junk.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, 100% of people that call you up with just a mattress or just a sofa, they have more junk. And you're not going to find that junk if you don't get on site.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to get on site, build that relationship. You don't walk in there and say, hey, how are you doing? My name's Lewis. Where's your junk? You want to build that relationship with them. That's
huge.
always going to be important.
It's huge. So Kevin, I'm gonna acknowledge people that are jumping on the stream here while we've got them here live. So we've got someone here giving us a thumbs up. If it's inside the groups, I think you have to give StreamYard some permission so it shows your name. But Jack here is asking, how much revenue was the top truck captain bringing in average a day?
A day, probably between $2,000 to $4,000. I had some guys and they would compete against each other, and they would come bringing in, It's like, all right, you guys, you're going to bring in 2, I'm going to bring in 3. Because this is one thing I taught them is, setting goals for themselves. We set, I don't know if everybody knows what an OKR is. It's an objective with key results. And I taught that, this is the same thing that big companies like Google or, you know, whatever big company that's out there, they use that, and I was teaching guys on the lowest levels how to build OKRs, how to set goals for the day and actually how to accomplish them on a daily basis. So, they would set a goal for the day and they would actually go after, they would compete with each other. And, we had guys that would bring in, after two, three, $4,000 a day.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. This was from when I missed catching this when it was happening live, but I believe that was when you were saying that you wanted to leave to be significant, not successful. That they were saying that it resonated with them. Sky's in the house. Eddie Claros, providing value is so important. Kevin, TJ, appreciate everyone jumping on. This is cool, and this is what the live experience is so fun. Jason Hall says one sofa and a great experience makes a repeat customer and referral. Absolutely. Eddie Claris is asking, I think this segues really well into kind of our next topic here. What are some ways that 1-800-GOT-JUNK provided value to their customers, specifically when they're doing an in-person estimate? So, Kevin, I don't know kind of how you normally frame this, but I would love to dive into that topic of, you get I would imagine you're getting a schedule filled with quotes, or quote in-person quotes. The trucks are going out there. What happens? When with that whole process? Walk us through that.
Well, you have to remember something. Every customer that calls you out has a value key. It's either going to be time, space, or effort. They don't have the time to do it. They have a busy schedule. You have a soccer mom. You got, they're dealing with school stuff, their kids, everything else. They don't have time to deal with all that stuff, junk themselves. That's the value that we give to them is we come in there, we knock it out quickly, and you don't have to worry about a thing. The space, maybe they need their space back. Maybe they're having a kid and they have a room they've been storing stuff in forever. And, the husband's been procrastinating forever, cleaning that room out, getting it painting, put the crib together. Hey, we go in there, we'll clear out that space for you, and boom, you can start building that crib by the end of the day. Or effort. Maybe you have a single mom or an elderly couple, couple who maybe they have big, heavy furniture they need to get rid of. The value to them is we have 2 strong guys that come out there and take care of it for them. And they do all the lifting and loading. And, we, by building rapport with the customers, we learn their why. Why are they getting rid of the junk? In order to do that, you build that rapport, you build that relationship with them, you find out what their actual value is. And that's how you establish the value of your service, is by reminding them of that value later on. When you come to giving them an estimate, you're like, all right, so, it's going to be a half a truck for this stuff here. I know that you're on a time crunch and you need to get rid of this stuff. My value to you is I'm going to take care of it quickly. I'll knock this out in 30 minutes. Actually finding out what that value is and finding out their why is huge in order to get that out. If you're just walking, like I said before, if you're walking in there straight transactional, hey, where's your junk? You might get the job, you might not. You might get repeat business, you might not. But if you've actually relate to them and, build that relationship with them, find out what their actual value is, you can establish the value of your service to them.
That's huge.
That makes sense.
Huge. It does make sense. And it's interesting because a lot of the guys in the groups that I see, they can't relate to the fact that this is actually a really valuable and convenient service. Some guys actually think, oh, I'm charging too much or I'm ripping people off. This is a very convenient service that you're providing. I don't personally, we've got the dad van. We've got a Dodge Caravan. I don't have a pickup or a trailer. So I've got to go, if I want to remove something from my house, I've got to go rent a U-Haul and then pick it up or borrow a friend's truck. And then I've got to go to the dump. That's a good hour right there just in travel time. And then I've got to actually do the work. I might need to call a friend over to come help me move the bigger things. I might have to, all of that. And then you've got to pay for dump fees. You've got to take it to the dump. You got to wait in line. There's a lot of value and convenience that you're providing. And if you're not bringing that out to the clients, then you're missing out on a huge opportunity.
And if you're not finding out what you just told me, if you're not finding that out, if I'm not finding that out from you, I'm failing, because I'm going in there and not creating that conversation with you, not building that rapport. Everything that you just told me, I know what your value is now. I know what I can provide to you as a value, and I'll remind you when it comes to, giving you that estimate right there on the spot. I'm going to remind you of that, what you told me earlier. That's why you need to get rid of it. Because sometimes, you'll throw a price out there and like, oh, but hey, if I'm establishing the value of my service, that value builds around you, and I'm reminding you what your value is, why you actually called us out to begin with. Then you're not thinking about the price. You're not thinking about the money. Even at the end of the transaction, when you're finished, you got everything loaded, and they go to swipe that credit card, now they're thinking about the money again. Man, my wife's going to kick my ass when she finds out how much money I spent to remove this junk. Or you can remind them of the value. You know what? Man, my wife's going to think I'm a freaking rock star because I got rid of this, because you're reminding them of that actual value that you can give to them. That's why that customer experience is important. Like I said, having the mindset of being, I'm going to deal with this customer, I'm going to overcharge him because I want to make good money or anything. You can charge as much as you want if you give them a value, because as long as they see the value in your service to them. Like I said, everything that you just told me, I can find what your value key is in that.
Yeah.
So
are you calling that value key?
Yes.
So is there a concept that people can like go dig deeper into that concept? I've never heard that specific thing. I'm very understanding of what you're talking about, the value, but I've never heard that specific term.
Yeah, well, it's a term I developed years ago. It's just, because I started digging deep, because like I said, the training that 1-800-GOT-JUNK provided was completely different than the training that I did, because like I said, I started developing myself and learning different things. And, where they had their, specific, this is what you should do to be successful with 1-800-GOT-JUNK, I developed my entire training around that at a high level. Instead of just being in the background or on a wall somewhere, I actually took it seriously and helped develop it, and like I said, establishing the value of your service. Well, what is the value of the service? That's where I started thinking, well, it's time, it's space, and it's effort. Those are the three keys that is most important to people. And it's your job to find out why. And you'll never do that if you're going to be straight transactional salesman and go in there and it's only about you. You have to make it about them and why they want to get rid of that junk.
That's huge. That's huge. Justin asked, what do you do if a customer calls and wants a quote, but it's very persistent about getting the quote over the phone?
That's always going to be a tough one. It depending on how much they have, and it depends on, everybody here probably has a different way they charge. Some people, for me, the easiest and most for a customer to understand is volume rates. How much room the items take up in your truck or trailer, whatever you have. Not making it really complicated for the customer. So if you explain that to them, and you explain that you can go on site, see the items, and can give a more accurate estimate. Sometimes they're going to be persistent. Sometimes, all right, fine, send me a picture and I can do it. I say, well, judging by it's hard to see by this picture. It could be this range to this range, but I can't give you a more accurate estimate unless I see it on site. And remind them, giving that estimate is free with no obligation. I could set foot in there, because once I get the whole point is to get your foot in the door, because once you get your foot in the door, that's when you start building that relationship. And you can also start that relationship, on that call ahead on the way to the customer, because building that rapport with them.
So is the truck team calling the client as they're headed out to the job?
Yeah, they usually call 15 to 30 minutes before they go out there, just to kind of confirm the appointment. But at the same time, they can start building that relationship with them, start building that rapport, and say, explain to them, hey, I'm just confirming the appointment, confirm the address, where's a good place for me to park when I get out there? Hey, I've got to stop and get fuel before I go out there. Can I grab you a coffee? I know it's early. Can I grab you a coffee and get you something, while I'm heading out there? 99% of the time they're going to say no, but hey, guess what? they're thinking, damn, these are nice guys, you know,
Mhm.
these are great guys. They're actually thinking about me. Well, while I'm doing that, reminding them, like I said before, they maybe have one item that we're going to get, hey, I see that we're just picking up a sofa today. I just want to let you know that, we are a fully licensed and insured company. We can go anywhere in your house, you know, your attic, your crawl space, basement, garage, backyard, shed, we can take a look at that for you. We'll probably be there in about 30 minutes. Well, like I said, that sofa is their project, but they got more junk. So maybe what now they got the gears turning and they're like, well, you know what? I do have some stuff in the basement that my husband's been promising me to get rid of for the past 9 months. He's just been procrastinating. Maybe you can take a look at it while you're here. Hey, no problem. We can take a look at it and give you an estimate while we're there, So, or maybe they just keep thinking about it. And then when you finally get there, they've already thought, man, I got a bunch of stuff in my shed. Maybe I'll show it to them, but you'll never get that if you don't build that relationship and build that rapport with the customer.
Or the piano that's been stuck in the guest room forever that they forgot about, or
Exactly.
yeah, whatever the case may be. So you're going out strictly, you're never booking in a job for a price. You're going out strictly for an on-site estimate, no strings attached estimate. That's how you're framing the whole thing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. That's I think that's very insightful. I think there's a lot of things in that. The coffee thing. Um, do the guys do that on everyone, or do they do it like I feel like that's something that you should like kind of work into every conversation, like something
The
like
ones,
that.
the ones that perform at a high level usually do. The other ones like, oh, it's kind of corny. I don't want to do that. But once they start doing that and realizing the impact that it has on the attitude coming from the customer, and you start building that trust and relationship with them, it's huge. And maybe it's 100 degrees outside. Hey, you want me to grab you a water? I got some water here. I know it's pretty hot out there. You might have been working in the yard or something, and I can bring you a cold water. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, 99% of the time they're going to say no, but it's about that wow
They've
factor.
clicked one step closer to knowing you, liking you, and trusting you. What happens?
Exactly.
What happens if the crews are headed out? They've got a day full of jobs. I'm curious on the scheduling side how you make this work, because you've got to fill the day with enough quotes, right, to make it happen. Of course, some come in the same day, and that's great. But let's
Mhm.
say they headed out and it was only a sofa on the agenda. They scheduled X amount of time for it. Turns out they've got a whole shed that they want cleaned out by the time you get there and chat with them. That's going to run longer and take longer. What do you do for the other appointments that are booked behind, and who's taking care of that?
Well, that's where my operations team would come in, and basically they have a schedule that books. Every time a job books, it goes onto our schedule. We actually move it off of the actual route into a dead space, and we have them booked up. So if I have multiple teams out there, that team they finished up early, I can slide that job over to them. Or we always have a 2-hour window. We always so we can play with that time a little bit. We'll call the customer and say, hey, you're scheduled between 12 and 2. We're running a little behind, but we'll still be there within that window, probably towards the end of the window. And if they can't do that, then we'll work out another team to come in and do it.
So there's flexibility in the numbers. How many trucks did you have running in the Atlanta market?
In my location, we had 18.
Bit of flexibility, and would a large percentage of those be out every day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Let's catch up in the comments here, and then I'd like to give it to you to kind of take it where you want to go. I think a question that's on my mind is, as you're training these people, what are I know I said you can take it wherever you want, but I'm giving you something if you want to grab onto it too. When you're training people and in the teams, what's the thing that they find the hardest to grasp, but has a really big impact on the results that they get?
Well, probably the hardest thing for them to learn is actually estimating a job. That's always, and like I said, in these Facebook group chats, I see a lot of newer guys. That's the question out there. What do I charge for this? But learning how, like I said, if you're charging volume, learn, picture that's the items that you're looking at actually stacked up in the truck or the trailer that you have, and you get a kind of a better idea of what that volume is as you go. So that's probably one of the hardest things for people to learn. But once they start learning it, there's going to be hit or misses sometimes. Sometimes they might overestimate, sometimes they might underestimate, but they'll learn as they go. but that's probably one of the hardest things for them to learn. Um, Everything else is, built around just learning how to, actually take care of those customers. And then, as you start to develop as a truck team member, you start to learn all the other values, then you start performing at a higher level because you get to be a better salesman. You're taking better care of the customers, you're making sure that you're getting Google reviews at the end of every single job, because you want to make sure that that customer is going to come back to us and probably, ask for you by name.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Jack here is with College Hunks, and he says what they've done is pay on a commission basis to their junk teams. So it really helps with their sales culture, he says. So now they're thinking like an owner because they're paying a commission basically on the sales that they've made. Completion percentage goes through the roof, etc. What's your take on that?
I personally like paying commission, paying a part of whatever revenue they bring in, because that helps them get creative, because they want to make money, and they're in that for that sole purpose, is to make money. And if you want to retain really good people, you have to pay them well. You can only pay them, like 11, 12 bucks an hour, but if you do it on a commission based, depending on how much revenue they actually bring in, they'll bring you in more revenue. For them, it's like, like I mentioned, I had guys that made $2,000-$4,000 in a day. It's because they want to generate revenue, because they get a percentage of that. So
That's
the
huge.
more money they make, the more money you make.
Yep. Eddie's asking, do you have any strategies on handling price objections?
Oh yeah, and that's one of the, I have the course that I created, I have an entire course created strictly around that, price objections and how to handle that. I have, because anytime you walk away from a job, you lose money. If you go out to a job and they're canceling on you, you're going to lose money. That's why I hate it when people say, that customer's cheap or, whatever. Guess what? If you go out to a customer and you walk away, you lost money because you paid for the team to go out there, you paid the fuel, you paid, maintenance costs, insurance, you're paying all that stuff out there. So it's better to me to get something than nothing. Get some sort of revenue on that truck, and you have, what I call a negotiation protocol. First of all, you're going to try you're going to give them a price, and if they're like, yeah, I can't afford that, well, if you tell them $500, say the best I can do is $300, it's a negotiation tactic. They want to pay $450. They can pay that, and they're going to. But you have to be able to, work with them on that. Get some revenue, offer to get the big stuff out of their way. It's like, oh, you know what, this stuff's harder to get rid of. Let me get that for you, and it'll be a cheaper price. If that doesn't work, offer a coupon. And then while you're doing this, you also have, it's really, really important to, again, reestablish the value of your service. Go back to those value keys and remind them why you called us out there to begin with. Once you show them that value, then they're not going to negotiate as much. You're not going to have those price objections because they see the value in it. So they're willing to pay that price, because to them, hey, that's why I called them out there, and they can actually do what I wanted them to do. Then yeah, I don't have any objection to paying that price, because I actually see value in it. If they don't see the value, it's going to hurt them to actually pay that price. If they actually pay it because they're desperate, hey, you made money, but guess what? You'll never hear from them again. They're going to badmouth you to all their friends, their family, their coworkers, and none of them will ever call you. They're going to call your competition right away. Every time you walk away from your job, you're basically strengthening your competition. So talking about saturating the market, guess what? You just helped do that by giving that to somebody else. You might have, I'll take $100 off. I don't care if it means to do that, because there's always things that you have to cover in the background. But if you if you know how to manage your business, that's not going to be an issue, because guess what? Every customer has a lifetime value of at least $5,000.
Yeah.
They might be paying
that's residential customers, not even commercial jobs.
Yeah, Exactly. You know, so I mean, you might get $100 now, but guess what? You might get $600. You know, it's 6 months from now or a year from now. You might get another $1,000 off of them because they know you, they trust you, and you gave them a good service. They're going to continue using you. So every customer has a lifetime value of $500 or $5,000. So if you're walking away from jobs, you're losing out on that. You'll never scale to the way you want to really scale your business. You might get some money now, or you might get, you know, you got to look at the big picture when it comes to that. You know,
This is
it's the long game. It's not, you know, wham bam, thank you, ma'am, type of deal.
yeah. This is there's some nuggets in here for sure. Jack is bringing some good stuff to the chat too, guys. I appreciate you guys leaving comments. This is making it fun here. I've chatted with a guy who was in marketing about a year ago, and I believe he had been involved with working with 1-800-GOT-JUNK at some point. And he had mentioned how your minimums are very low so that you can just get out there, get in the door, and connect with people. Can you talk a little bit about minimum pricing? Because you did talk about, you know, that people who are like, oh, I won't get out of bed for, you know, less than $200 or whatever. Let's talk about minimum pricing for a bit and the strategy and theory behind that.
Well, you know, minimum pricing is important because yeah, you get your foot in the door. You know, you might have your minimum pricing, but you also might have a list. You know, we had a list of a single item, and we give an even lower price on that because, you know, like I said, most people have that one project they're working on, and they might, you know, they get rid of that sofa because they have a new one coming in Tuesday. You know, so they see that price, they're like, okay, I can afford that. But once you get your foot in the door, that's when you can get in there. You can find more junk, remind them of the value of your service. Hell, sometimes they might not see that until they actually see you working. You know, after they meet you, they build that relationship, they see how you work stuff. You know what? I do got another thing upstairs that I need to get rid of. Can you throw that on there as well? You know, yeah, I see the value here, so it doesn't matter if you charge me more because I see the value now.
Yeah.
You know, but getting your foot in the door is the biggest important part of that. So, you know, yeah, minimum price has to do with that. And sometimes, like I said, even if you have to do certain items like a sofa or mattress, even lower than your minimum price, that gets your foot in the door.
What is your, because I've heard as low as like $25 or $40 for a minimum price. And I agree. Like if the guys have gone out there and quoted it, you've got to get some money for it. And on the flip side too, if they've got a sofa that's coming in next Tuesday and it's Friday and they're looking to have that gone and the guys have come out, they're going to be much more disappointed and upset with the service if they can't get that taken care of. Even if you take a slight loss on it, you've now got a customer for life.
Exactly. You know, and, you know, I used to have the mindset before where, you know, it's like, I wouldn't, you know, if they didn't want to pay what we were charging them, then we'll just walk away. You know, I don't want to lower the price because I didn't want to devalue, you know, our services. But once I started changing my mindset, and you know what, I'll make a deal with you, I'll get something on that truck, I'll get some type of revenue. You know, like I mentioned before, you know, once we changed that mindset, we saw the significance and growth in our revenue. You know, like I said, it was a slow 7-year creep to get from 800,000 to 3 million, and then in 2 years we went from 3 million to 9 million.
Yeah.
You know, but changing that mindset because you're getting some revenue. You know, you want to get money on that truck because, like I said, it's either get $40 or lose $40. You know, so for going out there, I mean, hell, it's probably more than that because, you know, once you put in your marketing, your fuel, your salary, and everything else, you know, just marketing alone, you know, it might cost you $75 to $150 just to get that lead. So if you're wasting that lead, you're losing that much money to get out there, plus all the other expenses. So, you know, if I get $40 for a sofa, so be it. You know, my old boss used to tell me it's better than a stick in the eye, but some money is better than no money. You know, it kind of stuck with me when I heard that. But, you know, changing that mindset to me, because like I said, now I have that customer who thought we gave them a good service, we gave them a good deal. Now they're going to tell their friends about it. Now they're going to tell, when they're sitting at work and somebody's like, man, I got all this junk I need to get rid of. Man, you guys got to call them. They take good care of us. They hooked us up. You know, the next thing you know, they're calling and booking a job for you for, a full house clean out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's
something
better than a
better
stick in the eye.
better than a stick in the eye. Getting some revenue on that truck is better than zero revenue at all.
Well, and you're thinking long term, right? So if someone's just jumping in now and they're hearing $40 for a sofa, this guy's crazy, I'm just going to jump back off because he's clearly lost his marbles. One, it's better than a stick in the eye, and two, if you're looking at the lifetime value of that, you've just got someone in the door, another $5,000 client in the door. Now that might be over the next 5 years, but that's the lifetime value of that client to you guys, and to your companies. That's a big deal. I have someone here. Carlos is asking, what do you do to stay productive when you don't have jobs for the day? I don't know if this lies in your wheelhouse, but any insights on that?
Then you turn everybody. If you have no jobs and you want to stay productive, turn them into marketers. Put out signs. Go door to door, put door hangers on it. Drive around neighborhoods. If you see people with junk in their carport, knock on their door. See people out working in their yard. Say hi to them, wave at them. And I had one guy used to go, yell out the window, "Hey, have you heard the gospel?" The gospel? Yeah, the junk gospel. And they started talking about it just to make them laugh or whatever. But turn them into people, your own salesmen. Turn them into marketers. Go out there and market your business. Stand out in an intersection with your sign. Use your truck or your trailer. Make sure that it's branded well so it can become a billboard for you. Even if they're just driving through neighborhoods, somebody's going to see that truck out there and say, "Hey, you know what? I've got junk." Just seeing that, just driving through a neighborhood, make sure that your vehicle is well branded so people see
funny.
that.
The junk gospel, that cracked me up. Now I'm gonna dive into a little bit of a hot button topic in the groups that I've seen. People talking about yard signs. You mentioned yard signs there. I've had people tell me that I don't have firsthand info on this. I've had people tell me that there's bonuses for removing competitors' yard signs. Talk about
that. Yard signs are depending on what area you're in, because sometimes, I've seen people pulling out yard sign. We had one of our competitors that ended up opening an office a block away from us, and we constantly saw them pulling up our yard signs to put theirs.
Is it true that 1-800 gives bonuses for removing the signs?
Not at my location, no.
So it'd be a per location.
I've never actually heard that. If they did that, like every franchise has different owners with different mindsets. It's not just about 1-800 got junk. They would never allow that, at a franchise level. Some owners, they're not always the same, cut from the same cloth. So they're, some are going to be like, yeah, they'll give their bonuses for that. I've never actually heard that specifically, but I'm sure that happens. Like I said, when you have individual owners like that, they do their own thing. They train their own way. They do their own thing. Whether they're successful or not is up to them.
What did you guys do when it came to, I appreciate that. What did you do when it came to networking with other junk companies? Would you ever refer jobs out or have them refer jobs in? I'm a big proponent of it. I'm curious how that worked with a larger company like 1-800.
Well, I mean, you're not gonna, when you're talking about 1-800 junk, they're not gonna refer jobs out to like smaller junk removal companies or anything like that. But I actually had a list of people. Some people, they would call us out to pick up some yard debris or something, and it's yard debris is a hard sell when it comes to that, because what you're charging for junk, they can't see. It's harder for them to see the value of picking up some tree branches. That takes up the same amount of volume as a sofa and a couple mattresses or some big pieces of furniture. So those are always going to be a hard sell. But I would have some companies that I knew, and I would just say, hey, I know you can't afford this. I'm empathetic for that, but I know a guy that can take care of this for you. What he charges you, I don't know, but if you want to give them a call.
Got it. Cool. Guys, drop your comments in the chat. This may be one of the most commented podcasts that I've done live, so I'm definitely enjoying the participation here. Kevin, what's something that you'd like to talk about that I haven't asked you about?
I don't know, because when it comes to, everything that I'm talking about, it's all about mindset, how you want to, people out there starting their own junk removal company. It's always going to be what mindset you have, how you want to do this. You can be successful doing this. There's always going to be companies like, your company that can handle the lead generation, the SEO, and do that stuff. You can learn all that as you go, but just, you can have that sales background, be a great salesman out there. But once you start learning how to really take care of those customers and combine it with all that, that's where you're going to be successful. And as you start growing your team, some of you guys that are probably out there, maybe they have a larger team already. They have a company that's been already established. They have, several trucks out on the road and everything else. The most important thing is develop your team, you know, develop them as leaders, give them something to be successful at. It's not always just about your success. If you can help somebody else be successful, guess what? You're going to be successful because as they grow, they perform a higher level. You're going to make more money. You're going to be more successful. But if it's only about you and your money, you're going to be, you're never going to have that retention. You're never going to keep really good people there, unless you give them something to move forward with. That forward momentum for people is the most important thing. Teach them how to be leaders. Teach them how to, you know, be you, basically. You know, like I said, the closer I got to success, the more I wanted to be significant. I wanted to help people actually succeed. And that's kind of why I came up with this course, because I want to see other people succeed too, not just myself. That'll come later on. Like I said, I've only started my own junk removal company a couple months ago. So I'm still in the learning process as well when it comes to lead generation and doing those things. But I miss being significant. I miss helping people actually grow and, get that forward momentum in their lives. Developing them as leaders is something that is going to be the most important thing for me.
Yeah.
And it should be for everybody else. It's going to be different for a lot of guys just starting off. It's just them or just them and one other guy or two other guys. Then develop yourself, learn these things, while you're still new, while you're still fresh. Develop yourself as a leader. Make sure that you obtain as much knowledge as possible, gather as much information as possible. Grow yourself, then help start growing people around you, because the more successful they are, the more successful you
are. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I'm going to get you to talk about your course here in a second. Jack says, so he's the College Hunks fellow in the chat here. Wisconsin, every 1-800 location takes College Hunk signs for what it's worth. So now we know.
Well, I'm sure maybe in that area, that's something they need to talk about. Because,
yeah.
like I said, that's always each individual ones. And I've seen some big battles with yard signs in the past. There was many years where we never even did yard signs just because the Atlanta area is so strict on where you can put them. We didn't even do them for probably a span of about 5-6 years. We weren't even putting those out just because, we'd end up with a police officer with a trunk full of them showing up at our yard saying they'll fine us if we do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Oftentimes, it varies by location, but you can put them out on Friday and pick them up Saturday. I know there's a bit more work in there, but that is a way to stay within the bylaws of a lot of areas, because they do the same thing for politicians, right?
Yeah.
So, but talk about your course. It's coming up. I think the first intro is coming up this evening. Go to Kevin's profile and check that out. But talk a little bit about that for those listening here today, but also in the future when they're listening to the replay.
Yeah, well, my course, I mean, I kind of start off with talking about some of the stuff that I talked about here, just talking about, kind of eliminating that mindset and fostering that culture of excuses, kind of talking about, the difference between a sales culture and a customer service culture, and, what it entails to combine the two and get that high performance culture. But I also talk about, kind of the secret sauce, what I call the secret sauce, to actually, having that on-site experience, from building rapport to establishing value. Then, you go into the estimate and pricing of the job, then, actually closing the job, and just, and how you can do that and give them that positive ending at the end, you know, and, kind of digging into some of that as we go on this first course. And then the one after that, that's when we start getting into actual rapport building and how to do that, transactional versus relational, building that rapport, and, the difference between relational rapport and relevant rapport. Relational, just building that relation with somebody, or, it has to build, being relevant about their actual junk. And, what the difference is, and something that's really important to me too is, like we talked about before, is that call ahead. And I want to actually listen to other people's call aheads and how they, interact with the customer. That way I can give some honest feedback, because feedback is always going to be important for people to hear. Having that honest feedback is going to help them grow. And then, how they can actually find more junk by doing that. And then going into the second class, that's when we're talking about establishing the value of your service, finding out the customer's why, building on those value keys that we talked about before, and how you explain your service, asking open-ended questions, and then just kind of reestablishing the value of your service as well. And then, the third class, we're talking about the actually estimating and pricing, and that assumptive close, and how to close the job, giving that accurate estimate with different price ranges, bidding with confidence, reestablishing that value when it comes to that negotiation or price objection, and how to actually close that and give them that wow factor.
There's a lot of little pieces, and each puzzle piece builds that puzzle. This is cool.
Yeah, and then we get to the objective handling and the negotiation protocol, how they can handle those objections, the different types of objections they have, and what you can come back with. Building that negotiation protocol, going back to reestablishing the value of your service. And then, in each one of these classes too, we're going to be actually doing role plays, and giving feedback on those role plays and what they can do to change that. And as you go through each course, you're going to learn more. So by the time you get to, the fourth scenario that we do, you're going to, start becoming a pro at it. And then the last class, we're going over kind of how to create the perfect pitch. What from beginning to end when you get on site. One thing that I do on mine is I call it the 5-star service agenda. It's very transparent for the customer right off the bat. I show them, that, I come in, I'm going to take a look at everything that they have. I'm going to, from there, I'm going to, trying to go over everything with them, walk around, trying to find more junk with them, and if they're good with it, I'm going to do the job for the day. And I always tell them too, hey, if at any time, I'm not giving you a 5-star service, just tap me on the shoulder and let me know.
Yeah.
And just kind of laying out everything for them right off the bat, so that it's completely transparent, completely easy as possible for them, because we don't want to make it complicated for them. I see a lot of people talking about, they charge by the yard and this and that, the square yardage, and it's really complicated and confusing to customers, and just simplifying the whole process for them makes it just an easy experience.
That's huge. And how much is enrollment?
Like I said, the first class, we're doing it, the first session is absolutely free. We're getting that way people kind of get an introduction. They can feel that, hey, this is going to hold value for me, or you know what, I already know all this stuff. It's not going to hold a lot of value to me. That's why I want to do this first session free. But the rest of it, the last 5 classes is just $250. It's only $50 a class. I know a lot of people go out there and they charge thousands of dollars for, these different types of sessions. I'm sure you'll see a lot of these guys that claim to be junk removal gurus and teach you everything about how to run your business and make $10,000 your first 2 weeks and all that BS and everything else. All I'm really teaching you is what you can do to actually, I'm not promising you're going to get, $100,000 in your first 6 months or anything else, but it's going to give you a lot of knowledge. It's going to give you, different tricks on how to actually interact with these customers so that you can keep them as customers forever and get that lifetime value. Actually give them a value, to why you're going out there.
That's huge. That's huge. I can tell you right now, I'm going to sign up because there's things that I got just from this conversation that I want to know more. So I'm excited to dive into that. But Kevin, this has been a blast. Lots of people had burning questions about 1-800-GOT-JUNK, so we got to rock through some of those, which was fun. But appreciate you coming on. Anything else that you want to share with people before we jump off?
No, I just want to remind people, when it comes to 1-800-GOT-JUNK, you don't have to be 1-800-GOT-JUNK. You can, what they do is what they do at one location could be 100% different than another location. Everybody is different, the way they run their business. They have certain values they have as a franchise level, but you run your business the way you want to, and take that into your own business, run it the way you want to, but always take care of your customer. Always, gain more knowledge, develop yourself as a leader, do everything you can to improve yourself. One thing that I always say is every day you are presented with two choices in your life: either evolve or repeat. You don't want, if you're not doing good today, don't do the same shit tomorrow, because you just don't repeat the same day over. Evolve yourself, learn more, gather information, gain that knowledge.
I love it. I love it. Eddie's asking, how can we sign up for the course? How can people? I'm seeing your post here in the group, but I'm not directly seeing how to best get in touch with you to make jump in the right place.
Well, I was pretty much putting them in the Facebook group, so I always told them just to DM me their email address. I can put here in the group chat, I can put my email address. If you want to email me your email, I can send you the invite.
Perfect. Yep. And yeah, this was fun. While you're writing that, I'll just kind of wrap up for people, but I'll be definitely jumping into this. And guys, I hope you found some value. If I were you, I'm certainly going to be doing this, going back through and picking out some nuggets. There's a lot of pieces here that a lot of people miss. And success leaves clues. Kevin's helped build a very successful franchise location. And so he's not just talking, hot air here. He's actually gone through and done it and worked through the kinks. And there's something to be learned from that. Whether you love 1-800-GOT-JUNK or you hate them, they're doing something right. And Kevin's done something right in his franchise location that has allowed them to get to where they went. So, and now he's flexing those muscles on his own business, which will be cool to see that growth. So yeah, excited to, not only have this replay for people, Kevin, but just appreciate you jumping on here. This was fun.
Well, I appreciate you for having me on here.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we'll leave you with that. Where did you drop the email? Okay, you dropped it in here. Are you fine if I put that out publicly, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think I can I'll drop it when we jump off in the Facebook in the comments here, but we'll end the recording here now. Guys, implement some of this stuff. Watch it, watch it work for you. Ask Kevin if you've got questions. And Kevin, once again, appreciate you. I'm going to end the recording, but stick around here.
All right.
Talk to you soon, guys.
Bye-bye.